Okay, is that better? Okay. We'll get rolling here today, and hopefully there's people that are participating with us online as well that can fill out some of this stuff. Really, the goal of this whole thing is simple, and that is we're talking about movement as winter is now hopefully finally wrapping up and we're getting into spring and some warmer weather. The goal is that we get out there and we start doing more activities, and we want to make sure that people are safe and can do so in a way that they're avoiding injury. So this statement right here, the body is meant to move. If you think about our bodies, they're built that way. It's a system of pulleys, of levers that allow us to do lots of stuff. We can lift heavy weights, we can run, we can jump, we can even swing a golf club and hit a little ball off of a tee if we're coordinated enough, right? And so our body is simply meant to move. And if we're not moving, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So if our bodies are meant to move, what is our responsibility? I think it's captured in this little video right here. And Jordan, if you can help me with that. Some people have probably seen this before.
Move it. I like to move it. Yeah, I like to move it. 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 Yeah, I like to move it. 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 Yeah, I like to move it. I like to move it.
This is my dance move right there, you know, the watermelon. So we've all been to dance parties before, and everybody has their favorite move that they perform for sure. But ultimately, if the body is meant to move, our responsibility is that we actually move it, right? And that we concentrate on those things that allow us to do it well. So here's a question. Why should you listen to me? What's the point of you spending your time, whether it's here in person or online, listening to this guy? Okay, number one, I've been a physical therapist now for 23 years, going on 24, and I've seen thousands of patients recover from injury, and have been helpful in that process and guiding them through it, and as well as helping athletes of all different ages maximize performance. And the most consistent question that I get as I work with individuals, there's a common one that as I work with people, they will ask. Okay, two things. How do I keep myself from getting injured? Because that slows us down really fast. And the second one is, how do I maximize performance? And so whether you are the individual that's going, hey, I'm dealing with some stuff, or you are the individual that's going, I just want to maximize stuff, right? We've got answers for you. And in the process of the last 23 years, I've come up with this construct and a framework by which people can kind of analyze, you know, where they at. I call it this, right? Not golf, although I would agree with that too, right? I call it this, okay? It's what I refer to as the function box, okay? And so the function box is made up of 4 corners, much like a box, okay? And those categories are mobility and flexibility, strength and stability, okay? Balance and coordination, and then cardiovascular fitness or heart health, okay? Now, when I present this to people for the first time, oftentimes they will go, oh yeah, I actually know where I need work. They can self-identify, right? Which is a good thing. Some people go, I don't know, I'm not sure if, you know, which category I need help in the most. But ultimately, making sure that you don't get injured and making sure that you're maximizing performance is found in these 4 areas. Let me give you some examples so that you can understand, okay? So obviously, as a physical therapist, I work with lots of people that are dealing with some sort of nagging injury, okay? My runners, where do you think my runners fit? They're usually here, right? They come in and they've got great heart health, they've got great cardiovascular fitness. That's not their problem, but they're in my office because they're hurting. And typically we will find something in one of those other 3 corners that is a problem. And we go work on it and we fix it, and then they go, okay, now I'm doing great. Okay. My dancers, great mobility and flexibility, but they're still in my office going, hey, I'm struggling with something. And what happens? We're typically finding something in other areas. I had a time when I dealt with an offensive lineman, big, huge gentleman. I could not tell him that he wasn't strong, right? He could squat 500 pounds. He could bench press, multiple people. He was huge. He was a mountain of a person. And so I couldn't say, you know what, sorry, you're just not strong enough, because that construct didn't work for him. But what we found was, his mobility and flexibility was a challenge, particularly in specific areas. He had great mobility in some, and then tough mobility in other places. And so ultimately, we're trying to get people to analyze, where are they at, right? The balance and coordination one, I always tell this story. I had a gentleman that I was working with who, when I asked him, what is your favorite thing to do? He said, I love to play golf. And at the time I lived in Arizona. Arizona is a state where you can kind of golf all year round. Sometimes in the summer it gets a little hot and you have to properly hydrate, but you can golf in the winter for sure. And I asked him, when's the last time you played golf? And he said, oh, it's been 6 or 7 months. And I was surprised by the answer. And so I said, tell me why you haven't played golf for so long, since it's your favorite activity. And he said, the last time I played, I tried to tee up my ball and I almost fell over. I was embarrassed in front of my friends. And so because I haven't played for a long time, I said, okay, well, we've got a space we want to work on, and let's go work on it. Okay. So as we look at the function box, this is a presentation that you can kind of look at and go, where do I need work? Because ultimately, we're going to capture the ability to help prevent injury as well as maximize performance in those 4 categories. Okay. So where do we start? Okay. If I've got these 4 corners that I need to analyze, where do I actually start? In my experience, the best place to start is analyzing movement. And this is the reason. You will never be strong in motion you don't have. If I can only get my arm to here, never going to be strong up here, right? And so we start with analyzing the movement that you have to make sure that, you can move correctly. And then from there, we can kind of move into other spaces. So today, as part of our Lunch and Learn, what we're going to do is that we're actually going to work through a movement assessment. Okay. Now, for those of you that are here, not a ton of people, but you can actually work through it with us. Okay. There's a scoring sheet that you have, right? There's, hopefully, if you don't have a pen, we can grab you a pen. Okay. But this is the first place we start, and we're going to analyze some movements. I'm going to ask Jen, one of our health coaches, to come join me here today. And she's going to demonstrate while I talk her through it. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. All right. She's going to pull her hair back here. As she's getting prepared, there's a couple things that we're going to score. Okay. You give yourself a check in the box that has 0 if you actually have pain with the movement itself. So you do the movement, you go, oh man, that hurts. Okay. The second one over, the next box, is a 1. Okay, that happens if you're unable to complete the motion, and you'll hear me tell her what that is. Or you go, ooh, I'm pretty tight there. You'd give yourself a 1. Okay. You'd give yourself a 2 if you're able to complete the motion completely. Okay. And you go, oh, that's pretty easy. Pretty easy for me. Then you give yourself a 2. So those of you who are with us, you can go ahead and stand up. All right. And we'll work through this together. And if you're online, there should be a link for you to click on to download this little PDF so you can fill it out. And I've got a gift for you later, and you people here as well, if you fill it out. So, all right. The first one, okay, is called neck flexion. We're actually going to take our chin and tuck it down to your chest. And the question is, can you actually get it down to your chest? Some people, they will go, yep, I can do that. Others will go, no chance. Okay. Yeah. For some of us, we're like, hey, I'm getting extra tissue there that's helping me get there, right? Okay. If you can get your chin to touch your chest, then you would write down, and you don't have any pain with that, right? You'd give yourself a 2. If you go, hey, I'm not quite getting there, or I've got tightness in that space, you'd give yourself a 1. So go ahead and score yourself. Okay. The next one is neck extension. I'm going to have Jen turn sideways. Okay, come turn sideways. There you go. And she's going to drop her neck backwards. You're going to look up at the ceiling. Okay. If she gets her face pretty much parallel to the ceiling, then I would call that full movement. Okay. So sometimes you need a little bit of help with that. People will be like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm there or not. And so you can ask somebody. Okay. But again, so we're going to score ourselves there as well. You either go 0 because I had pain with the movement, 1 if you're unable to complete it or you had tightness, or 2 if you're like, yeah, no problem in that movement at all. For people who work at a desk consistently, that's usually a one that can be fairly tight for them. Okay. The next one, we're going right or left? We're going right. Okay. She's going to rotate her head to the right like she's looking over her right shoulder. And then she's going to drop her chin down again, trying to get her chin to her collarbone. Okay. If you can touch your chin to your collarbone and you don't have any discomfort there, I would give yourself a 2. Now, if we're going like this and going, oh yeah, I can touch my chin to my collarbone, no problems, right? That's called cheating, you know, and you're not supposed to give yourself a 2 for that one. Okay. So chin to the collarbone, count yourself a 2. Tightness, give yourself a 1, and another common spot. Whereas people do this, they go, oh man, I feel a lot of tightness through my neck. Okay, rotating to the left for me, Jen. Dropping that chin down. Okay, so she's not quite to her collarbone. I would give Jen a 1 in this situation. Yeah, little peanut gallery stuff back there going, hey, we found something on Jen. Way to go, right? Okay. So make sure you score yourself. Okay. The next one we're working to is a shoulder movement. I'm going to have Jen turn and face the screen. She's going to take her right arm, reach up as tall as she can, and she's reaching back over to try to get to her opposite shoulder blade. Okay. You don't have to grab your entire shoulder blade. You just have to touch the top corner of it. And shoulder blade is this bone right here. Okay. Go ahead and score yourself. How'd you do? You go, oh, I had pain there. Okay. I was tight, or I moved freely. Okay. We're working over to the other side. So you're going to take your left arm up and over. When I'm working on this with people, I will actually ask them, how does your shoulder feel? How does your tricep feel? How does your lat feel? Because all of those muscles are involved in this particular movement of the shoulder. Hey, go ahead and score yourself. Were you able to do it? Did you move without pain? Did you move freely? Was it tight? The next one, she's actually going to go the opposite way. So she's going to reach behind her back, just like that. I'm going to move her ponytail so we can see it. We'll fix her tag there. Okay. Sorry, Jen. Okay. The goal is, can she get her hand in between her shoulder blades? And she, yeah, got people going, that's not going to happen, right? Not today, not tomorrow, maybe not ever, right? But that's what we work on. Can she get her hand in between her shoulder blades? I would consider that full movement, right? And then the question would be, okay, Jen, you've got full movement. Do you have tightness there? So in this case, she goes, I have full movement, but I'm tight. She would score herself as a 1. Okay, switching arms for me, Jen. Actually, it looks like this one moves a little bit easier for her, right? And if I ask that question again, okay, so we've got good motion. How does it feel? Okay, so she goes, moves pretty freely. I would give her 2. Okay, all right. We are moving our way around here. Okay, so we've kind of done look at neck and shoulders. Now we're looking at back. Okay, so as we get to the back, we're going feet together, legs stay straight. For some of you that are bending forward, you're going to whack into a table, so slide somewhere where you can move better. And the goal is to reach down and touch your toes. Okay, Jen does a pretty good job there as well. Okay, but my next question to her would be, okay, she's able to reach her toes. How does it feel? Are you tight? Okay, so there's some tightness there. She identifies as a 1 because she completed the movement, but has some tightness there. Now, if you're doing this, yeah, I can touch my toes, right? Once again, that's called cheating. You can't, keeping the legs straight is part of the criteria for sure. Okay, go ahead and turn sideways just so they can see this one. The next one I'll have her do, arms go to the ceiling. Our feet are still together. She's going to reach backwards. Okay. And this is a little bit more difficult one, And the reference is, does she get her hips in front of her ankles, which she does, feet still together, right? And is she able to arch? You know, she does a pretty good arch there, right? So it's that criteria of going, as I do that, do my hips move forward in front of my ankles, and am I arching? Okay. I do have some people that will go, hey, do you want me to do a full back bend? I'm like, not necessary for this particular test. Okay. My gymnasts in particular, they're like, oh yeah, they bend over and start walking on their hands. Okay. So again, can you complete the movement? Was it tight? If it's tight, I give myself a 1. If it's painful or I can't complete the movement, I give myself a 0. Okay. Okay. Next one. Excuse me. She's going to stand with her feet together again. Okay. Hands come down to her side. I want her to rotate to her right. Okay. And she's going to wind this up as far as she can. And I'm going to give you a little bit of some criteria here. When I'm seeing it in the clinic, what I'm asking for is, can they get that other shoulder to come around towards me? And right now she's short of that, right? I can't see her other shoulder from this position. Okay. Whole body goes, right? Whole body rotates for sure. Good question. Okay, so in this one, I'd definitely give her tightness unless she goes, that actually hurts. If it hurts, then I'd be like, okay, then you give yourself 0. Okay. Rotating back the other way. Okay. A little bit better there, actually. Yeah. As I'm looking at it from here, a little bit cleaner in that movement for Jen in this particular motion. Okay. And sometimes you'll find that. You'll be like, hey, I see my motion patterns different side to side, right? I see it in golfers a lot where they're like, oh, man, I can backswing great. It's my front swing that gets limited. And that actually ends up leading to low back problems. But okay. Our next one, now that we've done the rotations, we're going to do an analysis of our legs. And it's a single motion that is really, really important in life. And it's called a squat. Some people hear squat and they go, my knees are not going to do that. And I'll tell you that your knees are meant to do it. And if your knees can't do it, it's usually because your ankles or your hips are problematic. Okay. Your knee is a simple hinge joint. It wants to go like this. Whoop. Right. When we have limitations in the hip or the ankle, we start to make that knee twist. And the knee goes, I don't like that one at all. Right. So let's go see how she does. So this time we're going feet shoulder width apart. We won't have you keep your feet together for this one. We're going shoulder width apart. Hands go to the ceiling. Okay. And she's going to try to squat down as far as she can go. Okay. Yeah, yes, you do have to get back up, right? You know, if it's a fall over squat, then I'd probably give yourself at least tightness, right? You know, so Jen does a pretty good job there, but I want to just instruct this a little bit. So I'm going to have Jen turn sideways, okay, so that you can see this. So Jen's going to go hands to the ceiling, and she's going to squat down, okay? In order to get a 2, and I won't keep Jen down there very long, her arms will need to be up here, okay? And her butt would have to go below her knees, okay? Right now for her, she'd probably go, the biggest challenge for me is balance. I feel like if I go any lower, I'm going to fall, right? Come stand for me, Jen. Okay, so nice shot. Yeah, hand of applause for Jen. Way to go, way to go. Our demonstrator here today, okay? So she'd have to be really upright. And so there's lots of things that are involved in the squat, particularly when you take your hands above your head, including this big lat muscle in the back of you that for many people is tight. And so as they try to squat down, their arms are going, oh, I got to go forward or else I'm falling over, okay? People that work at desks, that's a space that gets tight on them for sure. All right, so we've worked down through our movement assessment. Go ahead and score your total score, right? Write down your stuff there. I'll give you a second there just to add some things up. I know it's a crazy calculation. Single digit arithmetic can be very tough, right? So when I perform the squat in the clinic, I will ask people, what is your restriction? Do you feel it in your hips? Do you feel it in your knees? Do you feel it in your ankles? Does it feel like a balance thing to you, right? A lot of them it is balance, but oftentimes people go, actually, no, it's my ankles more than it's anything else. or it's my hips more than anything else. Okay, so, all right. Let's keep moving here. Now that you've had an opportunity to calculate it, okay, what do I do with this? So if you marked a 0, where you said, I've got pain in a space, you know, good reason to come and see me. And particularly if you go, I have pain in a space of movement and I've been struggling with it for a long period of time. Now, what's a long period of time? Some people will be like, oh, if I've been battling with it for 2 months, 3 months, whatever else. I always tell people, if you're trying to do things with it on your own and it's not making progress over a 1 to 2 month period of time, you ought to seek some help. And the reason is because those things become progressive. When you have an issue in one place and I don't get it addressed, what do you think happens? Any guesses? Correct. Yes, we start to compensate because your body will always figure out a way to get things done. Doesn't mean you're doing it the right way, right? But it'll always figure out a way to get things done. Okay? So if you've been battling with something for a longer period of time, please come in and get it addressed. Okay? If you had less than 10, your total score was less than 10. Another thing that you may go, oh, maybe I'll take a look at something and see how we do this. Now, for those of you that are here, or those of you that are watching online, or those of you that watch online later, this is what I'm willing to do for you guys, right? If you'll fill this out and hand it in to me either here or send it to the clinic later, I will actually take your score and what you filled out as your movement assessment and send you exercises that would be specific to you, right? So that you can kind of go, okay, I want to help prevent injury because that's what part of this is about, okay? All right, let's keep moving. The next one, how can you be proactive? These are ones that everybody's familiar with, right? Everybody seen these ones before? Raise your hand if you have. Great, okay? Some people, you know, will say, hey, these are some of my favorite products, but these are products that I recommend in my space pretty often, okay? If you've got pain with movement, Deep Blue Stick ought to be something you use on a consistent basis, okay? And what does consistent basis mean? If people go, I have hot spots, I will tell them that I want them to use the Deep Blue Stick 2 to 3 times a day, okay? Copaiba over here acts on the CB2 receptor, helps with a little bit of some pain control. Okay, so that we can kind of, those aches and pains and, you know, all those things that kind of bother us, we can use some of these things to go, hey, do they make a difference for me? And ultimately your body's going to tell you, right? That's the beauty of anything that you take. Either you're going to go, wow, that really works, or you're going to be like, not so much. Okay. Turmeric. Anybody know what turmeric does? Correct, right? So as we move, our bodies actually do a pretty good job of going, hey, I actually need to increase some inflammation so my body can repair. If I got too much of that going on, or I'm like, hey, I can't get it under control, it becomes problematic. And so turmeric is another one that's very helpful. The Deep Blue polyphenol complex acts in a similar pathway, right? So taking those on a consistent basis and seeing what does my body tell me when I do those things is really important. I tell people all the time, you should be a sleuth, meaning you should understand what your body responds really, really well to and what it doesn't. And work on the things your body responds really well to, and don't invest time in the things your body doesn't respond well to, or money for that matter. Okay. My secret tip. Who was asking me this earlier? Maybe it's Emily. I'll do a shout out to Miss Emily Miller. She helped me with this PowerPoint, and she was like, "What's the secret tip?" And I'm like, "You're gonna have to tune in. Sorry, you know." Hi. The secret tip is pretty simple, and all of us have experienced this at some point in our life. Who here plays an instrument? Anybody? Who here is an athlete or has participated in sports at some point in their life? Okay. The secret to any of those things is consistency. I get really, really good at things that I do often, right? If I want to get better at something, consistency over time is really what creates change. It isn't taking, using the Deep Blue Stick once. It isn't one workout. It isn't one meal. It isn't one good night's rest. It's consistency of those things over periods of time. Now, In our vitality program, one of the things we talk about is, and Dr. Tolson came up with this one, so I'll give him credit for this. He always says, it's okay to miss once. Just don't miss 2 times in a row, right? Don't make it a habit, you know? And I think it's great advice, because we'll all have those days where you go, I don't feel like it today, right? But if we go, I don't feel like it today, and I don't feel like it today, and I don't feel like it today, all of a sudden we go, I've gone 7 days not doing stuff, and now my body goes, it's easier to stay in bed. It's easier not to do. And so the secret tip is be consistent, you know, create things in your life that allow you to be consistency. The other one we talk about is a no excuses workout. Try not to steal the thunder of our vitality program, but a no excuses workout, the workout that you go, that's easy to do and I'm just going to go do it. Is it a 10-minute walk? Is it 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups? What is it for you that is that no excuses workout? Because then we keep that behavior pattern going and going and going. Okay? Okay. And the next one I'll say is, hey, if you haven't been over to see us, you should come over and see us. It's a beautiful facility, and we have wonderful people over there that are all came into this profession to help. You know, it's one of the great joys for me is watching people progress. They come in with an injury, or they come with something going on, and we work with them, and they go, hey, this is pretty cool. Now I can do X, Y, or Z. You know, that gentleman I talked about earlier, the golfer that goes, it's my favorite activity, but I haven't played for 6 or 7 months because the last time I tried, I almost fell on my nose. As we worked on his balance and worked on some strength, what we found was he had a bunch of limitation in his ankle. And so that his ability to balance was limited because he couldn't move his ankle very well. And so as we worked on that mobility, and then gave him some balance exercises, he was back out playing golf and enjoying life again, right? So we're here to help, and we invite you to come and see us. Any questions? From the squat itself? It's a great question. You know, one of the things we use in the clinic is a little slant board, right? And it's got these little different numbers on it. It's like, hey, this is level 1, this is level 2. And I always tell people you need to be at level 2 comfortably. When you come in for physical therapy, we actually take a little, what's called the goniometer. It's a little thing that measures degrees. And I tell people you have to have this much motion to walk normal. You have to have this much motion if you want to run or jump or do something more specific. And we just fit it. Now, generally, you can do a wall stretch. You can just go, okay, can I actually get into some pretty good bend in that ankle? Okay, but there's 2 things that actually control motion at your ankle. One is your gastroc muscle. It's the one we show off. Like, check out my calves, right? You know, and the other one called your soleus, which is a flatter muscle that sits underneath that. There's a different test that we can do where you go, okay, if I'm kneeling down, okay, and my foot is my hand widths away from the wall. Okay, so the wall would be over here. My foot is the hand widths away from the wall. Can I get my knee to touch that wall? Okay, and if you go, well, actually I can't, then we would say, hey, that's a deficient motion, right? So we're giving you some basics today in our movement assessment, but that's actually what we do is we go and look at all those things and go, okay, what are the limitations? You know, because it is one that we see pretty consistently. Ankle mobility then affects how my knees do, right? If you see people walking with their feet out all the time, right? They're either a dancer, so they've been trained to be like this all the time, right? Or they go, my ankle mobility is really tight, and so the way that I get around it, we talked about it earlier, the body will always figure out a way to get it done. Doesn't mean it's the right way, but it will figure out a way to get it done. So people will shift their foot out so they can actually get through that motion easier than a pull onto the Achilles or a jam into the front of the ankle. Good question. Any other questions? Any questions online at all? Oh, yeah. Okay, another great question. So we have a lot of people that sit at desks. Anybody here that sits at a desk? Most of us do. It's become the world that we live in, right? And so because of that, the nature of the world that we live in takes us forward. I collapse into my computer, my laptop, or whatever else is in front of me. I do this. Even if you set your desk up correctly, which we've done some of those instructions before, the tendency is to still go, right? Kids do that as well. We all do it because we have this thing. What was that posture position? Oh, okay. So we get this emphasis of that postural position that then can be tough. And so a couple of things that I'll have people do. Number one is multiple times a day. I always say at least once in the morning, once in the afternoon, but multiple times a day, you should actually take your shoulders up and back, where we're actually trying to open your chest. And we're going 20 to 30 of those. Okay. You should try this afternoon, by the way, and just go, hey, does that feel better to me? Most time people will be like, oh, it feels a lot better, because we drive a little bit of blood flow. You know, as the muscles, our upper traps and levator muscles get tight this space, what happens is those muscles pinch down on our vasculature, right? Our vasculature doesn't travel on the top, it goes down through the muscles. And so if they get pressure on them, it actually decreases the amount of oxygen that travels. Okay, if we don't get enough oxygen to our heart, we have a heart attack. If we don't get enough oxygen to our brain, we have a stroke, a brain attack, right? If we don't get enough oxygen to our muscles, they actually start to go into spasms and do other things that people don't like, right? And so this ability to go, hey, let's go roll our shoulders is one of the easiest ones to do. Okay, the other one will be harder for me to demonstrate, but as I'm sitting at my desk, right, I'm using my chair and I'm just leaning through and looking down at the ground with my arms on my desk. It's another pretty good one. Okay. Other questions? That's a great question, and it should be there for you to retake. Eventually, we're going to have this on some digital formats that you can actually just fill out on your phone as you go through it. Okay. Some videos that will be instructed there for sure. But most of the time, I'm reassessing people every 4 to 6 weeks, because it will take some time to work on things in order to actually improve. You know, if you take it a day, this goes back to our consistency secret tip, right? You take it a day and you went, hey, I did a stretch, I better take it tomorrow, right? You may find the same result. But if you go, hey, I took my assessment today and I worked on some things, and 4 to 6 weeks from now I take it again, we would hope that you'd go, oh yeah, okay, that movement's better for me now. Right? Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. If none, we will wrap up. I would invite you, for those of you that are here, you can turn your paper in. I will send you some exercise that will be specific to you. And anybody who's taking it online, if you're linking it up and then taking that assessment, you can send it to my email. It's dhawkins@pmhclinics.com, okay? Or dhawkins@doTERRA, either one. And I will actually go through and send you some exercises. The exercises come to you in video format so you can see them. You know what they are. Oftentimes people will go, I couldn't understand it because there's a before picture and after picture. And they're like, I don't know what happened in between. And so there's a program that I use that I will send people exercises in video format so they can follow along. It'll be specific. It'll say, do this many repetitions, hold it this long, all those things. So there's not a lot of guesswork there. But if you would like some of that type of input from me, I'm happy to help. Okay. So send me your information and we'll get you some stuff sent back to you. Okay. All right. If no other questions, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.